streets were named in Italian because that was the common trading language of the Black Sea. In Birobidzhan, on the Chinese border, by contrast, the local language is still to this day Yiddish, from when Stalin sought to encourage Soviet Jews to resettle there in the 1930s. In the fortified Kremlin of Kazan, there is both an Orthodox cathedral and a Muslim mosque, while shamans bless oil pipelines in the far north. Of course, all peoples are compounds of different faiths, cultures and identities to a greater or lesser extent. In an age when the curry is Britain's favourite dish, when the Académie Française continues to fight its losing battle to keep French free of foreign words, and when more than 1 in 8 US citizens are foreign-born, that is surely a given. But 3 things are striking about Russia's experience. The first is the sheer depth and variety of this dynamic magpie appropriation of outside influences. The second is the specific ways in which successive layers have built upon each other to create this particular country and culture. All nations may be compounds, but the ingredients and the ways they mix vary widely. The third is the Russian response to this process. Conscious, often self-conscious, of this fluid, crossbred identity, the Russians responded by generating a series of national myths to deny or celebrate it. Indeed, the very foundation of what we now call Russia has been shrouded in such a national just-so story, as I will discuss in Chapter 1, with conquest by Viking outsiders rewritten as the conquered themselves inviting the invaders in. Since then, there has been a stream of such legends, from the way Moscow became both Christian and the Third Rome, cradle of true Christendom, after the first fell to the barbarians and the Second Rome, Byzantium, to Islam, to today's attempts by the Kremlin to present Russia as the bastion of traditional social values and a bulwark against an American-dominated world order. Back to the future. The Mongols conquered Russia in the 13th century, and when their power ebbed, their most efficient quisling allies, the princes of Moscow, reinvented themselves as the nation's greatest champions. Time and again, Russia's rulers would edit the past in the hope of building the future they wanted, typically by scavenging the cultural or political myths and symbols they needed. The Tsars co-opted the symbols of glorious Byzantium, but in this case the double-headed eagle of empire looked west as well as south. Over the centuries, Russia's complex relationship with the West would become increasingly crucial. Sometimes this meant adopting ideas and adapting values to fit, from Tsar Peter the Great ordering Russians to shave their chins in European style or pay a special beard tax, to the Soviets building a whole society on their notion of an ideology that Karl Marx had envisaged applied to Germany and Britain. Sometimes it meant a self-conscious determination to reject Western influences, even by redefining the past, such as by ignoring all the archaeological evidence that the origins of this land came with Viking invaders. Yet it never meant ignoring the West. Today, hoping to be able to find a narrative allowing them to pick the aspects of the West they like, iPhones and London penthouses without progressive income tax and the rule of law, a new elite has again begun trying to define themselves and their country as suits their convenience. Not always successfully, and not at everyone else's convenience, though. Over time, they came to question not so much their place in the world as the way that world was treating them. This is at the heart of the process that led to the rise of Vladimir Putin and his evolution from an essentially open-minded pragmatist to the nationalist war leader who annexed Crimea in 2014 and stirred up an undeclared conflict in southeastern Ukraine. This has become a country in which reimagining history has become not just a national pastime, but an industry. Exhibitions chart the lineages of modern policy back to the medieval era as if in a single unbroken evolution. The shelves of bookshops groan with revisionist histories, and school textbooks are being rewritten in line with new orthodoxies. Statues of Lenin rub shoulders with those of Tsars and saints, as if there are no contradictions in the visions of Russia they embodied. The basic theme of this book, then, is to explore the history of this fascinating, bizarre, glorious, desperate, exasperating, bloody and heroic country, especially through 2 intertwined issues. The way successive influences from beyond its borders have shaped Russia, the palimpsest nation, and the ways Russians came to terms with this through a series of convenient cultural constructions, writing and rewriting their pasts to understand their presents and try to influence their futures. And how, in turn, this came to affect not just their constant nation-building project, but also their relations with the world.